Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I'd like to welcome you back to the channel, and I hope that you are doing just fantastically wonderful today. If you click this video, you're obviously interested in Cisco's Catalyst SD-WAN. Now, this video is part of a larger SD-WAN series, so if you're new to Cisco's solution, I would encourage you to watch from the beginning. This particular video is actually focused solely on CLI templates and how we can use a CLI template to configure port channel sub interfaces to leverage multiple links between, in my example, Catalyst 8K routers and Nexus switches. So with all that being said, let me share my screen. We'll jump right in. Awesome. So here's the topology that we've been working through. So today we're going to be primarily focused on data center 1 over here on the right. And we're actually going to be playing with this router that I just highlighted, DC1 CEO1, so data center 1 Cisco Edge 01. We can see that it has a link, two links, 4 and 5, that we want to essentially bundle into a port channel. One goes to a Nexus switch and the other one goes to a Nexus switch that are going to be a virtual port channel or VPC pair. So the idea is that we want to make this router think that it's connected to a single device. And then we want to essentially add sub interfaces on that port channel that we can use to extend our VPN 10 and 20 from the SD-WAN fabric into the data center. Now, I don't want to say it's a problem, but there is a little bit of a limitation with the SD-WAN manager. So let's go over to SD-WAN manager and I'll show you what I mean. So if we go to configure templates and we look at feature templates, typically in the past, what we've done, we're actually going to add a template. So let's add VPN 10 and 20 because we need to create these templates regardless. Scrolling up, we'll give it a name. So DC1 CEO1 VPN 10. And the only thing we want to do is globally set that VPN number to be 10. So no other changes need to be done here. Let's just go ahead and let's copy that. So CEO1 VPN 10, let's go ahead and copy and just change it to 20. And then we obviously need to change the number. So edit, scroll up, and we just need to modify this to be 20. Okay, good. Now, those two templates are created. Now, to this point in the series, what we've done is the next thing we would typically do is create additional templates so that we can assign the IP address to that VPN interface, the sub interface that we want, right? So if we come into VPN interface template, and I'm not even going to bother typing a name in because here's where the problem comes in. So for the interface name, we need to specify port channel, right? We're going to use port channel 1, but we can see that port channel is not on this list. If I try to force port channel, it tells me interface name should start with suggested names in the drop down only. So in other words, we can't define port channel here on the template. So what do? We need to create a CLI template. So we already have a CLI template from a past video. So what we're going to do is we're going to modify that. So the only thing we were using this template for before was the platform console serial command. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use the CLI template to basically get gig 4 and 5 bundled into a port channel. So let me go ahead and I scripted this to save time. So basically it reads interface port channel 1, no shut. So we need to create that port channel on the via the CLI. And then we need to go into gig 4, no shut it, and say channel group 1 mode active, which will put port gig 4 into port channel 1. And then the same thing for 5, no shut it, and add it to channel group 1. So I'm gonna just update the CLI template to be just that for the moment. It takes us into the workflow. We have a green check mark because there's no input from us needed, right? So we're just gonna go ahead and hit next and configure. And if I go over to the command line of that router, we should see the status in the background change. Okay, so it's in progress. So let's see, we can see a show IP interface brief that I had left on the screen here. There's obviously no port channel. So it looks like in the background, the status has been successful. We got some console messages saying that 4 and 5 flapped, and it looks like port channel 1 has been created. So let's go ahead and hit the up arrow. And we can see now that port channel 1 is indeed there, which is a great sign. Now, that doesn't change the templates within Manager. It's not just going to mysteriously populate port channel in that dropdown. It just doesn't work. So we still have some work to do, right? Now, we know that the sub-interface port channels are going to ultimately get assigned with or affiliated with VRFs, but those VRFs aren't on the router yet. So let's go back just to verify. Right, we don't have a VRF 10 or 20 yet because we haven't really pushed that via any template yet. So let's go ahead and do that next. So if we go back to configuration templates, we created that VPN 10 and 20, right? Now let's attach those to the router or the device template. So let's edit CEO1. Let's scroll down to service VPN and let's add VPN. Let's go ahead and add 10 and 20 that we just created. Let's hit next. Now, again, we would typically assign an interface here, right? But we couldn't create this feature template because it wouldn't allow us to select port channel on the dropdown. So what we're going to do is we're just going to leave this page blank. We're just going to say add. We're going to say update. It should take us into the workflow, which it did. We see that we have a green check mark. There's nothing that we need to input, so we're just going to hit next and configure. Let's go back to the router so we can kind of watch it. Okay, so the status has changed to in progress. Okay, it was successful, which is great. So now if we hit the up arrow, we now see that it created VRF 10 and 20, which is what we wanted, right? It created 10 and 20, but you can see they're not affiliated with any interfaces. Again, the problem is we can't get that interface to tie itself to the VRF because the graphical interface is not allowing us to choose a port channel as an option. So that's the problem. So let's go back to our CLI template. And as network engineers or architects, we know how to do this from the command line. So we're just going to go ahead and use the CLI script to do what it is we want to do. So let's come back to feature templates. We'll search for CLI and we'll go ahead and we'll modify the DC101 CLI. Okay, let me make this bigger so you can actually see it. So all we're doing here is we're actually just going to say interface port channel 1.10. All right. We have the port channel 1 created, so we're telling the router, hey, make this subinterface.10. We're putting it in the VRF that was created when we pushed the VPN in the last template push. We're telling it that that VLAN tag should be 10. This is very important, and I want to highlight this. So when I tried to do this prior to recording the video to understand how this was going to work, I had a lowercase q here. Notice that this is actually a capital Q. that matters. If you have a lowercase q, this script will fail and it will not push the configuration that you want. And you're going to be scratching your head for a long time because everything looks the way it should be, except literally this needs to be a capital Q. So just want to highlight that so you're well aware and it doesn't burn you either. Then we're going to put the IP address on there. We'll no shut it, which we really shouldn't have to do that, but we'll do it anyway. And then we'll define port channel 1.20, again, sticking that in VRF20, encapsulation.1Q20, change that third octet to be a 20 with the class C subnet, and we should be good to go. So we are actually playing with router 1. So that should be .1 actually. So .1, because .2 is going to actually live on the other router. So we want to make sure that we have .1 there. So let's go ahead and update. Okay, so we have a green status mark because we know that, manager recognizes that there's no input needed from us. It's happy with that, so we're just going to hit next, and we'll go ahead and configure. Let's pop over to the router and just kind of watch it. So again, show IP interface brief. Right now, all we have is port channel 1. We can see the status is in progress. Okay, it was successful. We hit the up arrow. Okay, awesome. So now we can see port channel 1.10 and port channel 1.20. They both have their respective interfaces. So that is looking awesome. So it looks like our port channel's up, which is a great sign. So let's hit the up arrow on the show IP interface brief. And we can see that the port channel 1 is now up, and we can also see port channel 1.10 and port channel 1.20 are both in the up state. So that is great. It would appear now that the CLI script, so let's head back. So again, if we head back to the CLI script and just take one more look at that, what we've done is we manually created the port channel. We took the member interfaces that we wanted to join that port channel and added them manually. We pushed the VPN configuration, but we left out the interfaces via Manager. So that defined the VRF on the router itself. Once the VRFs were there, we came back to the CLI script and we manually added the sub interfaces and we made reference of the VRF after the fact. So again, remember that capital Q here as well. So I know that that's kind of, it jumps around a little bit, right? Like we had to do some template stuff, CLI push, come back. But if there's a better way to do it, I haven't found that out yet. This seems to be a working method, at least for the design that I was trying to tackle here. So again, it's one of those corner case situations where if your environment has something like this, where you need to do the port channels and then attach the sub interfaces, it's possible. It's just a little bit kludgy because the graphical interface doesn't give you the ability to choose a port channel. So anyway, I hope this was been informative. I hope you got something out of it. Drop me a like, drop me a comment, and I hope to see you on a future video. So take care and thank you.